So, most of you know that I'm super passionate about weight loss, but not only weight loss, I'm more so concerned about fostering healthy relationships that people have with food, right? And so ultimately, the end goal is to get to a place where people don't have to focus on dieting anymore because they're just consciously making better choices and living a healthy life. So, my ultimate goal in all of this is to one day write a book. And I really want to call it the Hunger Code. And the whole premise behind the book is discussing the unhealthy relationships that we have with food and then how to break those habits, leading to a healthier lifestyle. So I'm working on a PowerPoint presentation called the Hunger Code, just where I can go through all of this with people. We did a pilot project with it last year, and I'm just revamping it, taking the feedback that I got from people and turning it into another presentation that we can focus on in the new year. So stay tuned for that, and I'm going to walk you through some of that information together. So the whole premise behind this book are the 3 habits of hunger that I want to discuss. So number 1 is habit, number 2 is heart, and number 3 is head. So the intro here on the Hunger Code is these 3 hungers and how we are going to ultimately fix those dissociations with food. So the first one here is essentially explaining what healthy hunger is, right? How can we understand what an unhealthy hunger is if we haven't acknowledged what a healthy hunger is? So we all know what healthy hunger is and the signs of that hunger. So when you're hungry, you feel the physical rumble in the stomach, you can get weak, dizzy, tired, hangry. Those are all signs that your body needs fuel. So that's the first thing that we need to understand before we can start comparing unhealthy hungers. So the first unhealthy habit of hunger is head hunger. This is the person that is a scheduled eater. So you eat because the clock says that it's time to eat. It's breakfast, it's lunchtime, it's dinner time. Even though you might not be hungry, it's 12 noon and you think it's time to eat. Or it's been 2 or 3 hours and you've heard that you should eat every 2 or 3 hours. So although again, you're not necessarily hungry, you are relying on a clock or being a scheduled eater because that's what everyone says or you believe that you should do. So you don't really give yourself the opportunity to experience true physiological hunger because you are almost ahead of that sensation because you think you should be, or you're scared to feel hungry, or you don't want to feel hungry. So that's the first unhealthy hunger. And if you can relate, then we'll talk about ways to break that. But first, see if you associate with that type of hunger. The next unhealthy type of hunger is what I call habit hunger. So you are an associative eater. You are eating because an activity or a situation that you are in is associated with food, even if you're not hungry. And usually it's a particular type of food that you find comfort in. So for instance, the movie goer, how many of you can go to a movie without popcorn? Not many, right? A lot of people associate going to a movie with popcorn or going to a movie with candy. And although you're not hungry, you're going to enjoy that because that's the association or the habit that you have. Or watching the Super Bowl and having nachos or having wings or having all of these foods that you otherwise wouldn't have, but because it's a habit or associative thing, then you're dealing with that type of hunger. So we need to address that once you acknowledge that you might be a habit hunger. How many of you watch TV at night and open a bag of chips or have a glass of wine? That's a habit we need to break. And then the third type of unhealthy hunger is heart hunger. This is a big one. This is one that I touch on a lot with people. This is the emotional eater, where food brings pleasure or food is used to combat stress or negative feelings or a stress response. And it's not only negative, it's really important that even when you are emotionally happy or it's a positive emotion, we celebrate with food and we soothe with food. So you could be celebrating and eating more, you could be going out for dinner to celebrate, and you could also be eating or drinking your feelings because you're upset or when you're stressed. So this is a very common type of hunger, and we need to channel that unproductive habit into something more productive. So if you are a emotional eater, then we need to acknowledge that, and then I will hopefully help to break that cycle of hunger. So how do we combat that? That's what I want you to stay tuned for. I am working on the section of the book and just, the guide for you here with me about how to break these habits of hunger. So step 1 is acknowledging which hunger you are, if it is head hunger, heart hunger, habit hunger, and turning that into healthy hunger. So tuning into the physiological feelings of healthy hunger. You all need to experience that first. Before you can change any of this, you need to know what true healthy physiological hunger feels like. So it's okay to feel your stomach rumble or growl and know that that is what your body is telling you, that it's time to eat. So step one, listening to your body. And then the homework that we're going to do together is asking yourself every time you eat, are you hungry? Are you feeding an underlying sensation or feeling? What are you eating? What are you drinking? And why? Allowing yourself to understand the reasons why you're eating. In that moment of stress, are you turning to wanting chocolate or wanting carbs? So before doing that, write down in a journal, which is also really crucial for any weight management, keeping a diet diary or journal, not only for what you're eating, but also for the associative feelings that you have when you're eating. So in that moment of stress, writing down what you're feeling before you reach for the food, and then trying to talk yourself through it. So there's a lot of self-talk that I recommend in A, I want this, and B, if I have this, how am I going to feel? Will I be upset with myself after? Will I be mad that I had it? Will I feel that all of my hard work has been sabotaged? You're likely going to have some negative feelings after you give in, and you have to talk yourself to those feelings that you're going to have before it starts, because if you can self-talk and self-play how you're going to react after you've had something, you may be less likely to have that food. I also often recommend leaving the house, taking yourself away from the situation that you're in, distracting yourself, going for a walk, going for a gym, taking a bath, anything to distract yourself, because likely when you're back 5, 10, 15, half an hour, 30 minutes later, if you asked yourself if you wanted that food at that point, you'd likely say no, because all you needed to do was distract yourself. So those are tactics that we can talk through, but there's just a starter and more information to come.